Just wanted to show you what it kind of looks like inside one of these apps once you start filing your taxes. And for this example, I'm going to use H&R Block, partially because it's the one I'm most familiar with, and partially because I already had a login for it. It doesn't mean that this is like the best or anything like that. It's just, it's the one I've used, and it'll look real similar to the kind of questions that you'll be asked on any of these free filing apps that you use, whether you go and get it from the App Store or you search the IRS free file site like we talked about before. So by the end of this class, you should know what that looks like, what to expect when you're using an app to file your taxes. Okay, so this is something that we went over last time. To qualify to file your taxes for free, generally speaking, you'll have these elements to make it a simple return. So if you have W-2 income, very limited interest or dividend income, you're getting standard deductions, or you have any unemployment income. A lot of free filing sites will also let you file the earned income tax credit. H&R Block is one of those that does. Child credits, student loan and education deductions. So if this is kind of what your taxes look like with not a lot of like other additional income or other things that you want to claim as credit, then you should be in good faith to file for free. Okay, so we're going to talk about how first to get the app, which is just like you get just about any app that we've talked about on here. So you're going to go to your Play Store if you're on an Android, or the App Store if you're on a Mac, and you're going to look up H&R Block. You'll see that I did and. You can do it with the little and sign as well, the ampersand, and that'll take you directly to it. If you need to review the methods for finding a different app, just go ahead and look at our first video and we talk about that in there. But for right now, H&R Block, once you click install, the app will show up on your phone. All right, and it might show up at the end of where all your apps are because it's the newest one. So just look for it. It's that green H&R Block. Okay, so once you've installed the app and opened it, you're going to need to make an account. All right, so you'll see this welcome screen that says we have the tools to help you get your max refund. You're going to click sign in, even though you don't have an account yet, because this is take you to the steps to make one. See the welcome screen? Click sign in. Once you're there, you're going to see where it says don't have an account, create one. Of course, if you have done your taxes with H&R Block in the past, then you might already have an account. But I'm just assuming for this that, we're all starting fresh. So you go ahead and say create one. So you'll be prompted to enter your email address, your phone number, your username and password. So it's similar to making a login for just about any other app. And then they'll do the thing where they send you the code via text just to confirm that you're you, to add that level of security to it. And make sure you remember your username and password for future reference. Okay, so once you're in there, you can get started on your taxes. And you click on that big button there that says start on your taxes. That should be on the front screen when you open up the app after you've made an account. So this is just the sort of introduction of them figuring out whether you're qualified to free file, and if not, what the sort of tier level of what you would pay would be. Okay, so they're asking how much help would you like for these purposes. We're saying we're doing our own taxes. That's what the free file version will be. So we're going to say that, and then we should get this screen on the right. And it'll ask you a few questions about, like, do you have children? Have you owned a home in the past year? If you have rental properties or investments. And so just answer any of these that are true. Just because you say have kids or some of these doesn't mean that you can't file a free tax return. So just answer these honestly, and it'll tell you whether you qualify for free file. So, all right, so we answered, I just didn't answer any of those. And this is just as the example because you could not have any of those things on that list. So what it says is like, yes, you can free file. So if not, you'll see something that's like a paid option, and that's up to you. But again, you do have the alternative of the free tax filing at the building too. So we're going to say use free. All right. And then they're going to ask you just to sort of confirm that you understand their terms and agreements. So you're going to enter your name and the date just as a way of signing it. And then over here, you'll scroll down. This is the bottom. The one on the right is the bottom screen, the scroll down screen of the one on the left. And you're just going to say, I consent to this, and then hit next. There's also a check bar there that says I'm filing this return with my spouse. If that's true, then they too would consent to it. And then you click on next there. All right. And then they'll start asking you questions that will help them determine what your tax filing will look like, what some of those numbers, those deductions, sources of income will look like on your tax. So the first thing you'll be asked is, how did you file your taxes last year? So they asked, did you use H&R Block? Did you use another tax company? Did you not file a tax return last year? Any of those are ones they can work but it'll give you your option here depending on what you pick to scan in your taxes from last year so they can see what your income was from last year, because they use that to help calculate this year's taxes. Okay, so it'll give you the option to scan those in, and I'll show you what the scanning in process looks like in just a second when we look at our W-2s. Okay, you'll also be asked to enter your social security number, which is sort of essential to filing your taxes. It's how they know, what tax payments or refunds connect to what person. If you don't have a social security number, you can get what's called an individual tax identification number, and you can go to this website to learn about how you get that individual tax identification number if you're not someone who has a social security number. So there'll be more information on that with the link. Okay, then you'll be asked questions to determine whether you are applying as single, married, or the head of your household. And a lot of these questions will have to do with whether you have dependents, whether you were a student, whether somebody else can claim you as a dependent. And a dependent is generally, a child, somebody that you are providing for financially. It could be a child, it could be a parent, it could be, someone else in your household. And if you have any questions about who qualifies as dependent, you can always click here and it'll break that down for you. That's what those questions will look like, just so they can figure out what your filing status is. Okay, and once your filing status has been determined, you'll be asked about your income. So this is where you get to add your W-2s. And the W-2s are the forms that you get from any of your employers or from unemployment for any sort of regular, already taxed income. You should get a W-2. So this is where you're going to add all those W-2s. You may only have one, you may have multiple sources of income. The process will be, similar one by one for each W-2. Okay, so you're going to say start now. Okay, one of the cool things about using these apps or filing your taxes online, especially with an app like this, is that you can directly import your W-2s, like those forms themselves. You don't have to type out all the numbers that are on it, which can be a real drag. Instead, you have multiple options for how you can just send it to that directly, so they can just cull all the information from it at once. So the easiest one here is direct import. So what you would do for that is every company has an EIN. It's sort of like a social security number for a business. So that would be on your box B of your W-2. If you just enter that EIN number in here, it can actually just import your W-2 directly, because there's only a limited number of W-2s for every particular company. They have that connection in order to do that. So that's one quick way. You just fill in the number that's in box B and click import W-2. If you either don't want to do that, or for some reason that doesn't work, you can upload a PDF of your W-2. So you can upload a PDF file, might be how you got it in the first place if it was emailed to you. So you can upload that directly by clicking start upload here, or you can just take a picture of it. If you have a paper copy of it, you can take a picture of your W-2, and they should be able, if it's a clear picture, to pull all that information just from your picture. So there's a couple of different options here. So one of those should work. They also, down here, if you scroll down, it does give you the option to enter all the information manually. But if you have another way of doing it, this will save you time and save you, the potential for error, right? And if you have more than one W-2, you'll have to do this for each W-2. So you can't take a picture of multiple W-2s at once. You need to go through the process for each one. All right, and once you finish that, they're just going to ask you what you do for a living. So whatever your occupation is, you would just go ahead and put that in there. And then you'll be asked a few questions about other sources of income you may have had in the past year, some of which are pretty rare, like foreign accounts, if you had any income from cryptocurrency, or any money that was earned out of New York State. There'll be different sort of ways of calculating what that income looks like. So we're just going to skip over that, though, because we're going to assume that, our major sources of income here are going to be either employment or unemployment insurance, and not sort of these more rare things. Okay, so once you've answered all these questions, the app will calculate your total income. I don't have anything on here because I didn't actually put any income in, but this is what it should look like for you. So you should have all your W-2s listed there, all your sources of income should be added up there to a total. So after that, you want to keep following the prompt to enter information about your tax deductions. So if you paid on student loan interest, if you want to claim local or state sales tax as a deduction, you can do that. It usually is not as high as what your standard deduction would be, but feel free to list any of this you want to, that you want to claim an additional deduction for. So follow those prompts to upload the information that would be pertinent to the deduction you're claiming. They'll also ask you if you want to file for tax. The one that I think might be most applicable is the earned income tax credit. You can check there. It'll help you sort of identify whether or not you qualify for it. You'll also be asked if you or your family has had health insurance for the past year. That's just a way to like ensure that too. You can end up paying a penalty if you didn't have any form of health insurance for the year. So that's why they ask you that. And you probably also got a form from your health insurance provider that shows that the months that you did have health insurance. They generally don't ask for that, but they do just want you to certify that you did. And that can include Medicaid, Medicare, any type of health insurance. Once you've answered all these questions, the app will tell you what you owe or what you should expect to be refunded from your federal taxes. And they'll also do this thing where they check your tax return for any errors. So if something comes up that doesn't seem to match up just in terms of like a number in your income or something like that, something that looks like it might have just been mistyped, they'll let you know that, which is really helpful. So like when I did this for the example and I said, check my accuracy, they were like, you didn't actually enter any sources of income. So it looks out for things like that. If you accidentally skip something that was something that you needed to do, it'll tell you that. Okay, and then once you've done that, you've got your federal return all set within the H&R Block app. So then you will file your state return. And the helpful thing about this and a lot of these free filing apps is that a lot of the information that you put in your state return is going to be similar to information that you've already provided them for your federal return. So the app itself will kind of populate the state return with some of the information that it already knows, like your name, your address, your sources of income, those sorts of things. Remember, like we talked about last time, whatever app you're using, just double check before you start that they will also file your state return for free. Not all of them do, many of them do, but not all of them. And some of them only do it in specific states. So just double check that New York State is a free file state for the app you're using. It is for H&R Block, which is another reason why I wanted to show you. So if you qualify to file your federal return for free on H&R Block, they'll also do your state return for free. And that's all states, I think. It's definitely New York, but I think it's all states. Okay, so final step. Once you've been through all this and your federal and state returns are ready to be filed, you'll be prompted to enter your bank account information for any payment or direct deposit. If you don't have a bank account, you can opt to either pay the IRS by check or get a refund by check. It'll take a little bit longer for them to process payments via check. Actually, sometimes it actually takes a lot longer, honestly. If you're using direct deposit or if you're paying out of your account, that happens relatively quickly. I can say that the turnaround that I've seen is like 2 weeks at most, 10 days, something like that. A check is sort of subject to the whims of a lot of things. So, if you do have a bank account and you're comfortable doing that, that is a fast way to either get your return or go ahead and pay. But if you don't, you can always get a check or pay a check. And then they will give you a way to sign your return that's like, you just make up a 5-digit password. And I think the only thing it can't be is something like 5 zeros. So you won't actually need it for anything else. It's just something that you've chosen to show that you signed it yourself. It's a security thing. Okay, and so once you have filed successfully, you'll be given links to download paper copies of your federal and state returns. So I would save those in a safe place. If you can print them, if you want to print them and save them as hard copies somewhere, that's a good idea too. But I would also save the file somewhere on your phone or on your device so that you can access it again next year. We'll need that again. And I think they do also email you copies of the final forms as well. So I think you get an email copy too, if I remember correctly. But they'll also give you a prompt to download it from the final screen. Okay, so here are a couple of helpful tips for using the H&R Block app in particular. So it automatically saves your progress as you go along. So if you get to and you need to check and see if you might qualify for a particular deduction, so you need to come back and finish it tomorrow, it'll just automatically save to the last screen that you've been on. So when you log back into the thing, you just tell them, I want to finish my taxes. They'll ask you, do you want to start at the beginning or do you want to go at the most recent screen? Either way, even if you say you started at the beginning, your information is still all in there. But if you want to start at the point where you stopped before, say go to the last screen and finish. And that will pick you up just right where you were before, which is really helpful. You don't have to save any of this on your own. It just does it for you. Another thing that I found is, this is just a tip. So like when you're using the H&R Block app, you'll have, and I'll show you on the next screen, the general back button that you use on your phone just to go back, because it's just at the bottom of your phone. Don't use that in the H&R Block app. It will actually jump you back to the beginning screen. What they have instead, and I'll show you here, is a little thing on the screen itself that says back. You might have run into this with other apps before. So when you want to go back a screen, if you need to go back a screen at any point to the screen you were on just before, or one a couple before, hit this and not the back button on your phone. The back button on your phone will take you all the way back, and it's just sort of a drag. Make sure you're using their back buttons and not yours. That's just a little thing to save you some headache. So that's H&R Block, the free tax prep at the East Harlem Neighborhood Health Action Center. So if you either don't qualify to do free e-filing of your taxes, or if you just need some extra help, this is available to you. Again, appointments are available Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There's a Google form to fill out for an appointment, and you'll need to bring all your pertinent tax information with you, as well as your ID. So make sure you have all your paperwork with you at that time. Tax day is April 18th. Want to keep you informed about when taxes are due. So in order to avoid any late fees or penalties, you need to make your taxes. You need to pay your taxes or file your taxes by April 18th, which is kind of why we're doing this now, is to make sure you have the resources you need to do that. You know, if you have a simple return, check out one of these apps, see how you can do it. And remember too that you can always, if you get midway through using one of these apps and it just becomes too difficult for you, you haven't filed anything until you're done and you say you filed it. So you can just make sure you do file your taxes in whatever way you do. But if you want to check out one of the apps and then you find out it's not the right thing for you, maybe then you want to go to the free file at the building. Just know that you can try those options, but just get your final tax filing in by April 18th.